Do you ever feel like no matter how much you give, no matter how much you invest, she keeps taking, and yet you're the one left wondering if you're enough? That gut-wrenching doubt creeping in, that unease in your chest? It's not you, it's her words. And today, I'm going to reveal the 5 things a woman might say that are not just red flags. They are flashing neon signs telling you to walk away before your heart, time, and self-respect are drained completely. Pay attention, because most men miss these, and they pay the price. The first thing you need to understand is that words carry power. A casual remark, a subtle statement, a sly comment. Sometimes it's not what she says, it's how she says it and what it signals about her intentions. You see, most men are trained by movies, culture, and society to give women the benefit of the doubt, to excuse behavior that is manipulative, selfish, or emotionally toxic. But here's the truth that most men don't want to hear. If a woman constantly verbalizes patterns of disrespect, dismissiveness, or entitlement, she is telling you who she is, long before her actions prove it. Take the first statement, "I don't want a serious relationship right now." On the surface, it sounds harmless, even honest. But when a woman repeats this to you, not once, but over weeks, over months, it's a clear signal that she's not willing to invest. She's keeping an emotional door open for other options, and she's not valuing your emotional time. Men often convince themselves, "I can change that. I can make her see I'm different." That's a trap. The moment you decide to fix someone else's unwillingness is the moment you hand her control over your emotions and your self-worth. Then there's the statement, "I just want to have fun." You think, okay, it's casual, maybe she's joking, maybe she's free-spirited, but underneath those words is a deeper reality. She is prioritizing short-term pleasure over a meaningful connection. And here's the harsh truth. Fun often comes at the expense of men who care more than she does. When a woman frames connection as fun instead of investment, she is telling you you are not a priority. If you ignore this, you will spend months, sometimes years, trying to convince her to change, while she treats you like a temporary amusement. Another phrase to watch for, "You're too sensitive." This one is poisonous because it gaslights your emotions. She is subtly undermining your confidence, making you question your natural ability to feel, to express, and to care. Sensitivity in men is not a flaw, it's emotional intelligence. When a woman calls it a weakness, she is telling you she wants someone she can manipulate. Someone whose emotions she can dismiss for her convenience. Most men swallow this, apologize, and try to suppress what makes them human. This is a slow erosion of identity. Finally, when a woman says, "You're different, but I'm not ready for anything serious," or "I don't need anyone," these statements are not just casual remarks. They are early warnings of patterns that will only intensify. She's emotionally unavailable, likely self-centered, and unwilling to meet your needs. Men often misread this as a challenge, thinking that persistence will earn her affection. It won't. It's a test you're destined to fail, not because of you, but because she's not interested in reciprocity. The worst part? Most men only realize the truth after they've invested their heart, energy, and time, and by then the emotional cost is already severe. Ignoring these words is like ignoring a flashing red light while speeding toward a cliff. Before I reveal the next statements in the following section, take a moment. Ask yourself honestly, how many times have you rationalized words like these? How many times have you excused behaviors that were clearly warning you? The answer matters, because understanding these words isn't about mistrusting women. It's about protecting yourself, your energy, and your emotional life. Now think about this equation while you watch. Words plus patterns. Your emotional ROI. How well are you investing yourself? Write your answer in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend who needs this wake-up call. By now, you're beginning to feel that uneasy twist in your gut, the one that whispers, "I've been here before." That's your intuition trying to tell you the truth your mind has been ignoring. The next 2 things a woman might say are subtle, almost harmless on the surface, but they are emotional landmines. If you hear these, walking away isn't just recommended. It's essential for your self-respect and sanity. The 4th phrase you need to recognize immediately is, "I don't owe you anything." On paper, that sounds fair, right? She's independent, confident, and asserts her boundaries. But here's the catch. Words like these are often delivered in contexts where she should owe consideration, like loyalty, honesty, or emotional reciprocity. Men hear this and think, "She's strong, she's autonomous, I admire that," when in reality, she's signaling a lack of investment. Emotional connections aren't built on transactional logic. They're built on mutual care. When a woman preemptively frames responsibility as optional, she is making it clear that she does not see your needs as relevant. That's not independence, that's avoidance. The fifth, and perhaps most dangerous statement is, "I just don't feel that way about you." You might hear this and feel shocked, blindsided, or even convinced it's a temporary reaction. Many men internalize this, replay conversations, analyze every text, and try to win her feelings with persistence. But here's the reality. Feelings are not negotiable. When a woman says this, she is not rejecting a moment. She is rejecting a pattern, a person, and ultimately, a potential relationship. Trying to argue, persuade, or negotiate feelings is like arguing with gravity. It will never bend to your will, and attempting it only leaves you bruised. Let's pause for a moment and talk about why these statements hit so hard. It's not the words themselves, it's the emotional consequences. When you invest in someone who consistently signals disinterest, disregard, or emotional unavailability, your brain releases cortisol and dopamine in a toxic cycle, stress mixed with hope. You become addicted to the highs of brief attention and the lows of rejection. This is not love. This is a trap engineered by patterns, not romance. And men fall into it repeatedly because society trains them to believe persistence equals virtue, even when persistence destroys their self-esteem. Here's a brutal truth. The men who thrive in relationships are not the ones who chase every word. They are the ones who recognize patterns and act on them. They see emotional unavailability and walk away before it poisons their confidence, their time, and their ability to trust. This is not rejection, it is preservation. The energy you save, the mental clarity you maintain, and the respect you cultivate for yourself are exponential. When you finally commit to someone who genuinely values you, all the heartbreaks of ignoring red flags suddenly make sense as lessons, not failures. Understanding these phrases also requires understanding why women say them. Often it's not malicious, it's a reflection of her priorities, her fears, or her emotional capacity. But your responsibility is not to decode her psychology to convince her to love you. Your responsibility is to decode it to protect yourself. Recognizing these 5 statements isn't about becoming cynical. It's about becoming wise, discerning, and emotionally sovereign. Ask yourself right now, how many times have you rationalized words like these, telling yourself maybe she means something different? Write your answer in the comments. Then think about this personal equation. Clarity of words, emotional investment, just your protection factor. The higher the result, the stronger you remain. Remember to like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend who needs to see this. Because the men who ignore these warnings are the ones who end up paying the emotional price. Don't be one of them. Here's the part most men never hear from anyone. They think it's all about charm, effort, or timing. But the truth is far more ruthless. Women often communicate their intentions before actions even confirm them. And the problem is, men rarely listen. They hear words, but they filter them through hope. They interpret signals through desire. And in that filter, warnings become excuses. Red flags become puzzles to solve, and the cycle of disappointment becomes inevitable. Think about it. Every time she says, "I don't want anything serious," or "I just don't feel that way," she is signaling a boundary. But men are culturally trained to treat boundaries as challenges rather than truths. They believe persistence is proof of worth. Here's the psychological truth. The mind sees effort as a measure of value. And when a man keeps trying despite repeated rejection, he convinces himself that his suffering is noble. But in reality, he is chasing emotional validation in a pattern designed to erode his self-respect. The more he chases, the more the brain becomes addicted to the small dopamine bursts of attention, and the more trapped he becomes in a toxic loop. This is where emotional intelligence separates men who thrive from men who fail. Recognizing words like, "I don't owe you anything," or "you're too sensitive," is not about mistrusting women. It's about reading reality accurately. If a woman frames consideration or empathy as optional, she's revealing the boundaries of her emotional capacity. Most men overlook this because they confuse emotional availability with physical attraction, humor, or flirtation. But availability is not just about presence. It's about reciprocity, consistency, and the willingness to meet you on equal footing. Anything less is a silent declaration. You are secondary. Let's talk about manipulation because it's subtle but incredibly powerful. Gaslighting phrases like, "you're too sensitive," are designed to make you question your instincts. Your emotional radar is your most important tool, yet men often silence it because they are taught that sensitivity is weakness. Every time you excuse her words, every time you rationalize inconsistency, you teach your mind that your feelings don't matter. And that is a slow, invisible form of erosion, a leakage of confidence that nobody notices until it's too late. But here's the good news. Awareness is armor. Once you see the patterns, you no longer need to endure the emotional whiplash. You don't need to justify yourself, argue, or compromise your core values to win affection that will never come. You simply recognize the words, understand the intention behind them, and make a conscious choice to walk away. That is not rejection. It is power. Power over your energy, your time, and your emotional trajectory. Here's a critical insight. Most men are focused on the wrong signals, smiles, attention, physical closeness, while ignoring the words that truly matter. The words are the blueprint. The actions will follow what she has already verbalized. If she says, "I don't feel that way," don't wait for actions to confirm it. Her words already did. The longer you ignore them, the more emotionally invested you become, and the cost compounds exponentially. Take a moment now and reflect. How often have you ignored words in favor of hope? That equation, words ignored x emotional investment. Heartbreak probability is real. Comment your calculation honestly. How many times did you invest where you should have walked away? And while you think about it, subscribe, and share this with a friend who needs to finally see the signs before it's too late. By now, you can probably feel it, the weight of clarity pressing down on your chest. It's uncomfortable, unsettling, maybe even painful. That's good. Pain is the body and mind's way of telling you that growth is about to happen. Because here's the reality most men never admit to themselves. If you ignore the words you hear, if you chase someone who has already told you she's unavailable, you are the architect of your own heartbreak. The worst part? You will justify it, rationalize it, and even convince yourself that love requires this kind of suffering. That's a lie. Love doesn't demand compromise of your dignity. Let's connect the dots. Every statement we've discussed, the "I don't want a serious relationship," the "I just want to have fun," the "you're too sensitive," the "I don't owe you anything," the "I just don't feel that way," is a piece of a larger psychological pattern. It's a code. She is communicating her emotional boundaries, her availability, and the likelihood of reciprocity. Most men misread these signals, filtering them through desire, infatuation, or the myth that persistence equals love. But desire is temporary, infatuation fades, and myths are deadly if you build your life on them. The men who succeed in love and relationships are the ones who see words clearly, interpret patterns accurately, and act decisively. Everything else is emotional currency you'll never get back. Here's the harsh truth. Walking away doesn't make you heartless. It makes you wise. It makes you someone who values time, self-respect, and mental clarity above fleeting attention. Most men ignore the warning signs, hoping to win her over or prove themselves. That's not strategy, that's desperation. Real strategy is understanding the human mind, understanding female psychology, and knowing when engagement costs more than it's worth. Every moment you spend convincing someone to value you is a moment wasted that could have been invested in someone who already does. And this isn't just about relationships, it's about emotional sovereignty. How many men live their lives giving endlessly to those who cannot reciprocate, never noticing that their energy is draining away silently, invisibly? Awareness changes everything. Once you understand these 5 statements as not just phrases but signals of intent, you gain the ultimate freedom. The freedom to choose who deserves your time, who deserves your energy, and who deserves your heart. That freedom is not negotiable. It is earned by seeing reality, feeling it, and acting decisively. So here's your personal challenge. Take the equation we've been building in your mind throughout this video. Words plus patterns, emotional ROI. Apply it to every interaction in your life. How much of your energy is invested wisely? How much is wasted on signals that were clear from the start? Write your answer in the comments. Be brutally honest with yourself. And remember, clarity is contagious. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share it with a friend who needs to see the truth before it's too late. Because the men who recognize these signals, who act on them, and who refuse to rationalize red flags, those are the men who will never settle for less than they deserve. Those are the men who command respect, control their emotional lives, and attract the relationships they truly want. Don't be one of the men who learns the lesson too late. Be the man who walks away, preserves himself, and wins where it counts most.